The Untold Journey of the Maroons, From Slavery to Freedom, Linking Jamaica and Sierra Leone. Imagine being torn from your homeland, shipped across the Atlantic in chains, escaping into wild mountains to fight one of the world's greatest empires, and then decades later being forced to cross the ocean again, this time back to Africa. This is the extraordinary journey of the Maroons, my people, warriors of freedom who carried their African roots from the coasts of Ghana and Nigeria to the mountains of Jamaica, and then to the shores of Freetown, Sierra Leone. I'm Jamaican Konomusu, and today I'm sharing a story that is rarely told in full. A story of courage, betrayal, survival, and culture that links Jamaica and Sierra Leone in blood and history. Let's begin at the source. West Africa in the 17th and 18th centuries. Millions of Africans were captured by slave traders, many from the Akan-speaking peoples of today's Ghana and Ivory Coast, as well as the Yoruba, Igbo, Congo, and others. They were shipped across the Atlantic to the Caribbean islands, including Jamaica. On the brutal sugar plantations of Jamaica, people were forced to work long hours under the whip. But not everyone accepted enslavement. Some escaped into the wild interior, into the cockpit country and the Blue Mountains, places so rugged that British soldiers feared to enter. These runaways built hidden villages and fought to stay free. They became known as Maroons from the Spanish word cimarron, meaning wild or untamed. But to themselves, they were simply free people, guardians of African traditions in a strange land. The Maroons didn't just hide, they fought. Armed with African knowledge of guerrilla tactics, they staged ambushes, cut off supply lines, and struck fear into British troops. Two great leaders emerged, Queen Nanny of the Windward Maroons, a legendary warrior woman and spiritual leader, and Cudjoe of the Leeward Maroons in Trelawney Town. For decades, battles raged between the Maroons and the British. Finally, in 1739 and 1740, after suffering heavy losses and realizing they could not defeat the Maroons, the British signed peace treaties. These treaties granted the Maroons their freedom, recognized their land, and acknowledged them as a separate people, an almost unheard of victory for formerly enslaved Africans in the Americas. But peace came at a price. The treaties required the Maroons to return runaway slaves to the plantations, a condition that caused tension with other enslaved Africans and even among the Maroons themselves. For decades the balance held, but resentment simmered. In 1795, conflict erupted again, the Second Maroon War. The British, determined to crush the Maroons once and for all, surrounded Trelawney Town. The Maroons surrendered under promises of mercy, but the British betrayed them. Nearly 600 men, women, and children were captured and exiled, their homes destroyed, their freedom torn away. Instead of being allowed to stay in Jamaica, the captured Maroons were shipped thousands of miles away to Nova Scotia, Canada in 1796. Imagine leaving the warmth of Jamaica's sun for freezing winters, snow, and hunger. The Maroons were promised fertile land and fair treatment, but they faced hardship, disease, and isolation. Their warrior spirit endured, yet life was harsh, and they longed for a place where they could belong again. In 1800, the British government decided to relocate the Maroons once again, this time across the Atlantic Ocean to the coast of West Africa. They arrived in Freetown, Sierra Leone, a young colony built for freed black loyalists from North America. The Maroons, skilled in farming, building, and military discipline, were welcomed by the British authorities as allies. They were given better homes and land, and they played a key role in defending the colony against uprisings. But their adjustment wasn't easy. Many fell ill in the new climate, and not all survived the first years. Still, the Maroons helped shape the foundation of what would become the Creole community of Sierra Leone. The Maroons carried their culture wherever they went. They kept Akande names like Cudjoe for boys born on Monday. Their drumming and music echoed African rhythms that still live on in both Jamaica and Sierra Leone. They practiced spiritual traditions, herbal medicine, and storytelling that blended African heritage with new influences. These traditions became part of the cultural DNA of both countries, proof that despite slavery and exile, African roots could not be erased. Today, the Maroon towns of Jamaica like Accompong, Moortown, and Charlestown still honor their ancestors and maintain a level of autonomy granted by those 18th century treaties. Some Maroons eventually returned to Jamaica in the 1830s and 1840s, carrying with them memories of exile and survival. The story of the Maroons is more than a tale of resistance. It's a living testimony that freedom can be won even in the darkest times. The Maroons fought for their freedom when the world told them it was impossible. They built communities in the mountains of Jamaica, endured betrayal and exile, and then helped shape a new society on the coast of Sierra Leone. Their story teaches us about courage, resilience, and the power of culture to survive across oceans. If you've learned something today or felt inspired by the Maroons' journey, please like this video, share it, and subscribe for more stories that honor our shared African Caribbean heritage. Together, we can keep these stories alive so the sacrifices of our ancestors are never forgotten. I'm Jamaica Nkonomusu, and this was the story of the Maroon warriors of freedom who carried their African spirit across the Atlantic and back again. Thank you for watching, and remember, our history is our strength.